They went to a basketball game. That's all. 5 men, 1 car. A Friday night in February. They were supposed to be home by midnight. Instead, 4 of them would be found dead in the mountains. And one would never be found at all. This is a story of the Yuba County 5. And nothing about it makes any kind of sense at all. February 24th, 1978. Yuba City, California. 5 men, they just pile into a turquoise 1969 Mercury Montego. Jack Madruga, who was 30 at the time, he was the driver, he was the responsible one, the steady one. Bill Sterling, who was 29, quiet, reserved, stuck to a routine. Jackie Huett, who was 24, soft-spoken. Ted Weiher, he was 32, had a big heart, lived with his parents, and absolutely loved the game of basketball. And Gary Mathias, who was 25. Now, Gary was different. He'd served in the Army. He'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He had struggled in the past, but he was on medication. He was stable at the time and actually was showing improvement. The other 4 had mild intellectual disabilities. They worked small jobs, lived with family, followed routines very closely, and they loved basketball. The next day they had a tournament, Special Olympics. Uniforms laid out, alarm clock set, parents proud. That Friday night was just a game at Chico State. Nothing unusual, nothing dramatic, just 5 friends going to a ball game. They watched the game. Afterwards, they stop at a convenience store about 10 o'clock. They buy some Hostess pies, milk, candy bars, Coke. The clerk said they looked perfectly fine. They were laughing, excited. Then they drove off. And that's the last confirmed sighting of all 5 together. They should have driven south. Instead, they drove north. 4 days later, searchers find the Montego. Not near Chico. Not on the way home. It's 70 miles in the wrong direction, high in the Plumas National Forest, on a remote mountain road. And here's what's strange. The car wasn't wrecked. It wasn't out of gas. I mean, there was a quarter tank of gas left. The doors were unlocked. One window was rolled down slightly. Car wasn't stuck in the snow. Investigators said later that the road was definitely passable that night. So here's the first question. Why leave a perfectly functioning car in freezing temperatures in the mountains at night? It was cold, below freezing. Snow was on the ground in places. The car had heat. The car had shelter. The car had safety. And yet, they walked away from it. Voluntarily. Maybe they made a wrong turn. Maybe Jack misjudged the road. But Jack had driven long distances before. And even if they were confused, why keep going? Why drive 70 miles deeper into isolation? The road narrowed, climbed, wound through the forest. It wasn't accidental drift, it was a committed direction. Something or someone made them keep going. So their families, of course, start panicking when they don't come home. By Monday, the law gets involved. When the car is found, though, understandably so, hope fades. But there are no bodies nearby. No blood, no struggle, just silence. Winter silence. Months pass, snow melts, and then a discovery. In June, nearly 4 months later, a group of motorcyclists stumble onto a Forest Service trailer. Inside, they find Ted Weiher, or what remained of Ted. He's laying in a bed, carefully wrapped up in sheets. His beard has grown long. He'd lost over 100 pounds. He had survived for weeks. Weeks. Inside that trailer were sea rations, other food supplies, blankets, matches, enough to survive for months. But still, most of it's untouched. Let me say that one more time. Most of those items, including the food, are untouched. Ted starved to death with food right there in that trailer. Nearby search teams find what remains of Jack and Bill in the forest. Exposure, hypothermia. Jackie Huett's spine is found miles away, scattered. And Gary Mathias, never found. Not a bone, not his clothes, not nothing. He just vanished into the mountains. So, how did they travel 19 miles from the car to that trailer in freezing temperatures without the right clothes? Why didn't they use the heater in the trailer? Gary had Army experience. He would have known how to use those Army rations. And why were they barely used? Why did Ted survive longer than the others? Why wrap him up carefully in sheets? Someone had to help him. Ted likely couldn't have done, that alone in his condition, which means at some point, someone else was alive in that trailer with him. And then that person left. A man named Joseph Scones claimed that the same night the fire disappeared, his car got stuck on that same mountain road. He said he saw headlights behind him. He said he saw a group of men and a woman with a baby. He said he heard whistles. The law never fully validated that story, but the timing, the location, it's hard to ignore. Were the 5 men alone that night? Or did they encounter someone? Now, Gary had a history of mental illness. Some suggest that he experienced an episode. Maybe he convinced the others to drive north. Maybe paranoia took a hold. But that theory, really, it has holes. Why would Jack comply for 70 miles? Why would 4 other men follow him into the freezing wilderness? And even if Gary led them out of the car, why leave Ted in the trailer to starve? And where did Gary go? He was never found. No remains, no confirmed sightings. If he survived, how? If he died, where? And this is the part that hangs around like a hair in a biscuit. Inside the trailer, food, matches, propane, clothes, enough to survive. But it was barely touched. Some cans open, most untouched. suggested confusion or fear or somebody preventing access to the stuff. And if Gary was medicated and stable, why such irrational choices? Now, there was no evidence of direct violence ever found. But mountains don't preserve evidence well. If someone encountered them, if someone scared them away from the car, if someone convinced them to follow, that would explain leaving shelter. That could explain panic. But there's no proof. Just absence. Now, cold changes thinking. Fear spreads in groups. If one panics, others follow. If someone believes they're in danger, logic dissolves very rapidly. 5 vulnerable men, dark forest, isolation, uncertainty. Maybe they believed staying in the car wasn't safe. Maybe they thought walking was. And that one decision cost everything. 4 dead, 1 never found, no charges, no confirmed suspect, no resolution. Just a car that should have taken them home. A trailer with unused food, and a set of footprints that vanish into the snow. Sometimes unsolved cases are violent. Sometimes they're chaotic. This one is quiet. It's a wrong turn that is never corrected. It's a decision that doesn't make sense. It's 5 families who never got a clean answer. And one question that refuses to go away and leave me alone. Why leave the car? If you've been listening to the Pine Grove Briar for a while, you know we don't rush past the discomfort. We sit with it. Because sometimes the unanswered part is the story. If you're into cases that still don't sit right, subscribe. We're not done with them. This has been the Pine Grove Briar. Until next time, keep your pipe lit and the powder dry.